Okay. Um, I just want to say thank you, God. Whatever's gonna happen to me, at this point, I'm gonna ask God to give me strength. But I'm just thankful. That I didn't have to live life like these people. It's just humiliating. And the way things happen to me too is just the timing of it all just happened amazingly. Not that I would like this to happen to me. I wish I was not a target individual, but the way they try to create this reality and the humiliating reality that they know it will follow them. One point or another, they will get theirs. But some of these people sacrifice their own children. I was hearing this woman who's making herself laugh. It was so sad because I know, first of all, she's not laughing because she's laughing because of happiness or anything. She was just making herself laugh just to get me to hear her. A grown woman. And she was making herself laugh like that, knowing that she just basically telling me that she's gonna have her child pretending she's getting raped by me. Right? This obviously not good. Whoever's growing in this environment is not growing up to be okay, and this is pathetic. Now, whatever's gonna happen to me, I'm telling you, it's just so sad to hear this woman try to make herself laugh because she's acting like she's so happy that I'm gonna be tortured in this way, when in truth she doesn't really care. It doesn't matter. I know it doesn't faze them how much I'm gonna scream or not scream. Life is not gonna get any better or worse for them for that. And I know the reality. She's making herself laugh because she wants me to think, oh my gosh, yeah, they're gonna do this. And I was like, okay, and then what happened to you? Now I know it's gonna come back to you, but how life is gonna be any better for you? You're such a nasty trash. You're doing that to distract me from the reality. Target individual, that's what I need to be thankful for. But now I need to find strength. My body's destroyed. My organs are being destroyed. And I know the reality. Man, PSYOPs these PSYOPs, they utilize for me to try to make me think this is anything but this massive government that have been using human subject for decades. It was such a destructive facade of a PSYOP. A facade that was supposed to make me think of this thing to be something else. Now, because of that, I'm gonna go through hell because they've been humiliated. And it happened at the same time where the same PSYOPs are being used to do other things in this country. And they're now being recognized that these kind of people are now being utilized by the government in this weaponized way, right? And it's just happened miraculously that way, because for me, that's the PSYOP they use. But what is a PSYOP? Why am I keep saying a PSYOP? Target individual, a lot of us are there's people around us who are participating in this program that is supposed to make you believe that this is anything by a massive government doing that to you. Some target individual believe that it's some kind of cult, aliens, some kind of organized crime, some kind of all kind of things are presented to you for you to be confused as a target individual. For me to confuse me, to disorient the reality of what's happening to me, and to make me acceptive of what's happening to me as if I'm not being manipulated with this technology that this governmental entity have been developing since the 60s, the 50s. They presented themselves as this group of just woke, liberal, progressive, radical type of facade that, what you're seeing today. Now, let me just say this. This has nothing to do with politics. Target individual, we come in all races, all gender, all ages. Whatever if you Republican, conservative, it doesn't matter, because what's happening is you're just being utilized and used as a test subject. And they want people of all races and culture to be involved in that. That's the true method behind this. But for me, what they wanted me to look at them as is see them as this progressive, radical group of feminists and this and that, what you're seeing today in regard of the politics in regard of how, these BLM groups and this and that. And let me just say this. I'm a Democrat type of person. I'm more on the liberal side of things. I'm more progressive in the things. I'm not like a radical in that sense, but I'm perhaps closer to, I'm more like on the centrist things of being a Democrat, or closer to being a moderate, but more on the Democratic progressive state of mind. But I'm definitely more open to even, that I've always leaned there. This is who I get along the most better with. I prefer somebody who's open-minded in the progressive way. But of course, I know that it doesn't matter what's your politics. At the end of the day, I'm that kind of person. That's Republican can definitely be right. Democrat can be definitely right. There's probably things that we can, But I've always leaned toward the more democratic, progressive state of mind, right? And perhaps that's also a reason why they wanted to present that. But what is used as a psyop, as who's doing that to me, is this progressive feminism and this be like all what you would consider woke now, or back in the days. And they're just radical, and they're just so passionate because they're radical about this. They're avenging, protecting the, and it's such a destroy psyop, because at the same time, what's happening is, in this country, in the United States, they've weaponized this facade too, and ended up failing big time. This is why you see this country becoming so conservative, not even conservative, voting for Trump. There's a lot of people who would be more democratic leaning who switched, who flipped. There's even black people with different races, just because this became nonsensical. It was bullshit. It stopped making sense. These people became, they started looking like they're just people. They're not sensical anymore. They were just like hypocrites, full of shit, and people that you don't respect anymore. It's like, this is no longer authentic. And so it's funny that I'm listening to like podcasts, like somebody like a Joe Rogan talking to another actor, like I forgot his name, and they're like, oh man, this is no longer, do we even call them progressive anymore? Because this is like now a weaponized facade of the government. People don't even like, it's just like weaponized. It's no longer sincere. It's no authentic. I shouldn't even call them progressive, maybe more conservative. Right? And they call it, this is like the psyop that they present. It's just like a facade of a movement of the government, just trying to present this and using the different niche, or not niche, but the what's popular from, what is. And so for me, that's what they used. It's amazing. And I'm like, you see, even the majority are calling this a psyop. But you use the same facade to create a psyop to make me think that this was anything but a massive government that is using this technology onto women and children, using these children as test subjects. It's validated, it's testimonials, but you think that because you present yourself in this way, this changes everything else. You understand the audacity, the entitlement that you have, that you get involved in a program that's killing women, killing children, torturing them in these disgusting ways. But because you're involved in that, I'm going to look at it in different ways. It was so disgusting. And they have these fanatical ways of trying to like cover that up. Like it's a movement to block out the fact they torture women and children. It's so disturbing. But I know it was a facade. Now, also, by the way, who truly destroyed my life? Who put me in this circumstance, which is when you become a test subject, it's done. When you become a target visual, you're done. They just use you in these disturbing ways, and at the end, things usually end bad. I was put in this program, but the opposite of but this conservative that donated money to even a pedophile, because it was just so conservative that they rather have a pedophile become a governor in Alabama than let the Democratic Party. And they donated a lot of money. And they're not they're billionaires, of course, but they're not the richest billionaires, but they donate so much of their wealth They're willing to sacrifice so much of their wealth that they will spend more money than the majority of the billionaires that donated in these elections, because they think it's their life duty. They are not only conservative, but they're the conservative that will push the Conservative Party even further to the right. These are the people who I used to be working for. And they put me in this program, and I'll say that after once you put in this program, it's done. It doesn't matter who's involved in it. It doesn't matter. Now, I start saying that because I want to put this thing back in perspective, because now this PSYOP, this facade, is supposed to make me believe in this reality that they concocted together that makes no sense. That's so disturbing. And they have the audacity to think that I'm going to let them live in this facade. Because the truth is, this program and the technology that they apply on us, it is surreal, the level of advancement we're talking about in regard to technology. Because at the end of the day, who's running this program is this governmental entities tied to the DoD. Target individual, do not get confused. But what is presented to you is presented to you to disorient you. Please understand that if you're dealing with the technology that is radiating your body and destroying your body in this fashion, in this remote ways, you got to understand it's definitely defense technology from the Department of Defense. If you even deal with what's happening to your mind and the altering of your brain and the way they can do this, understand they've been working on this technology for so long ago. And it's well documented. Technology coming from, programs like Project Pandora, even MK Ultra, even when they were funding the studies of this guy called Dr. Jose Delgado, the Navy, the Air Force were donating money. This is the man in the 50s that was wiring the brains of animals, even human beings, in the 50s. They've been working on this for so long, that today you can only imagine how far they are. I am a target individual, and I deal with the most disturbing manipulation. Now, my body is also being destroyed, but there's not much to say about that. I'm just experiencing it, and I can see it is visible. And yesterday, they kept telling me how I'm foaming, and it usually happens when I'm in bed, when I'm sleeping, where I spit a lot. But this time, like my the spit that came out of me was just like foam. And because when they were saying that, I thought they're going to make me have seizure and I'll start foaming from the mouth. That's why I imagined that's going to happen. But they're doing damage to my organs, to my body. That's becoming more and more visible. The fatigue, the tiresome, it's just bad. But I am still fighting. Understanding that there'll be a time when my body will completely crash out. Now, that's the easy part, to just see the visible aspect of what's happening to you. Psychologically, my mind have been manipulating my brain. I deal with this technology that alter the mind, the V2K, the synthetic telepathy, all of this technology that we hear us talk about. Using this electromagnetic radiation and all this advanced technology they've been developing for so many years. And that's when they do the most degrading manipulation that is supposed to break me down. And then on top of that, to aid the manipulation, they have people around you that's supposed to gaslight you to accept and identify with this manipulation. So they make you have this experience and they act a certain way. Oh my gosh, I saw you. So you understand that there's a system of trying to break down the target visual to identify with this manipulation by having a bunch of people around you who's supposed to make you believe that what you're experiencing is not them manipulating you. And they do everything possible, even deflecting, changing subject. For example, I just described what they do. They manipulation my mind to disturb me, then this trash around me to supposed to gaslight me that what's happening to me is not manipulated. As I said that, there's a perp who started talking to me using this voice to call, telling me I'm going to be raped. The reason why they say that is because they're deflecting. This is part of gaslighting. There's a lot of gaslighting tactics. Now, I'm sure because this is governmental DoD and technology and tactics and intelligence community level of like manipulation, gaslighting might be just a little bit of a minimized way of describing what's happening, but you can almost compare to that. As you understand that their job is to make you believe that what's happening to you is not the manipulation that this technology can do to you. They say random things to scare tactics or warning tactics or deflections to try to get you to think of in other ways. They really do the same thing systematically, and it's so you can even Google if deflection is part of gaslighting. You'll see. It's so textbook, and they do it so systematically that you figure it out early. And for me, on top of that, which I now understand better, why it would be beneficial to use the perps that they use. There's a lot of childlike individuals, very childlike individuals who even make themselves sound younger. Like they try to sound you can hear them try to sound as innocent as they can, because one, in their childlike mind, they think that, oh, if I sound innocent, he's gonna start believing this. They still haven't processed, and some of them mentally they're not. They're children, so mentally things are not all the way there. So they start talking in ways thinking that you still think of them as this innocent, the trash the government uses to, and these people start seeing that as if they're warriors, like children. So they think like it's their job, it's like a movement. It's so disgusting, because what just happened not too long ago. Listen, I know I've been talking about these programs that they've been developing this technology for decades, but I've never actually looked into like a book of somebody like Jose Delgado. Jose Delgado, they call him like the godfather of like neuroscience and mind manipulations and brain surgeries. In 1969, he wrote a book. This book here. This book here is called Physical Control of the Mind. It was written in 1969. If you go through the things that they were doing and the manipulations and what they were able to do to monkeys and things that they were able to do, and the different manipulations, and this is and I'm still looking at it. I didn't even look at the picture. It's so insane. This is things. This was written in 69. What they were able to do in those days with this, what you call now would be considered very basic, very low level technology, and the findings is scary. I started looking into it just to read what, because I already know he was saying that this and this, but I didn't know the level of manipulation they were able to find, the understanding and what the implications of what they find. Before I started getting this book, there was an article about these two this Europeans that went and interviewed Jose Delgado, and it was years later. I think at this point he was like, I think it was in early 2000 or late 90s, right? This man was in the 80s at this point, and he was no longer somebody who was doing anything. He was no longer somebody employed, like he was no longer like the scientist that he was. And the things he was saying, and those people the journalists, they weren't like the journalists, the people that were interviewing him, they were talking about this book. And he was saying, like, in this book, the one thing I wish I could have used is this, the electromagnetic radiation that in Project Pandora, DARPA was testing on the monkeys. He was using just brain surgery to implant some kind of chips or some kind of device that they can remotely then press the button and things will happen to these monkeys. But he said if we use these electromagnetic radiations that the Department of Defense was using, DARPA was using in that Project Pandora. Actually, I think I have the sample here. This is the interview that made me get this. In this interview, and they try to make me feel something in advance, that's why. In this interview, you can clearly hear something.
Smashes it against the wall, narrowly missing the psychiatrist's head point to brain, and you stimulate yourself. It never worked. We lead him to a discussion of his own patients. Delgado, he tells of his work at the Ramon Y. Cayal Institute in the 1930s. In order to save a few paltry pennies, he would take a shortcut. Was delighted to see the alpha male given collapse when the underlings pushed the control lever. Do you remember how we thought of Franco? Says his wife. Imagine being able to turn off the Generalissimo. Delgado responds, but who could have put the electrodes into the dictator? With electromagnetic radiation we could have controlled the dictator from a distance.
This is the interview of Jose Delgado, who wrote this book. And they were talking about what they're doing to the monkeys. And there was like, this, I guess, the leader of the monkeys that was acting a certain way. And these monkeys, which, let me see if there's pictures of this monkey somewhere. These monkeys, and was saying if we're using electromagnetic, that means that we can manipulate people remotely without implanting the device. This interview you just heard is way years and decades later after this. This is written in 1969. I think the interview, like I said, it was early 2000 or so. And he was addressing the electromagnetic radiation that the DARPA was working on. Now, going back to this book, what this man wrote in this book scares me. It's scary to see how much advancement already in the 60s, what they were able to understand and the implication. There's a chapter here called chapter 9. Let me read this, the chapter. Chapter 9 goes through some kind of historical evolution. The name of the chapter is Historical Evolution of Physical Control of the Brain. He goes into, okay, well, and this is until 1969, so it's really old. Can you, very, like 1969, before the 70s, by the way. And so he goes step by step of the finding and the implication of this finding. Listen to this. If you go into my last video, that is what I was putting.
Experimental fact. Frog muscle contract. Physical control of the brain. Experimental fact. Frog muscle contracted when stimulated by electricity. Volta, 1800. Galvani, 1791. Dubois Raymond, 1848. Implication. Vital spirits are not essential for biological activities. Electrical stimuli under man's control can initiate and modify vital processes. Fact. Electrical stimulation of the brain in anesthetized dog evoked localized body and limb movements. Fritz and Hitzig, 1870. Implication. The brain is excitable. Electrical stimulation of the cerebral cortex can produce movements. Fact. Stimulation of the diencephalon in unanesthetized cats evoked well-organized motor effects and emotional reactions. Hess, 1932. Implication. Motor and emotional manifestations may be evoked by electrical stimulation of the brain in awake animals. Fact. In single animals, learning, conditioning, instrumental responses, pain, and pleasure have been evoked or inhibited by electrical stimulation of the brain in rats, cats, and monkeys. Delgado, 1954, Olds and Milner, 1954. Implication: psychological phenomena may be controlled by electrical stimulation of specific areas of the brain. Fact. In colonies of cats and monkeys, aggression, dominance, mounting, and other social interactions have been evoked, modified, or inhibited by radio stimulation of specific cerebral areas. Delgado, 1955-1964. Implication: social behavior may be controlled by radio stimulation of specific areas of the brain. Fact. In patients, brain stimulation during surgical interventions or with electrodes implanted for days or months has blocked the thinking process, inhibited speech and movement, or in other cases has evoked pleasure, laughter, friendliness, verbal output, hostility, fear, hallucinations, and memories. Delgado, 1952-1968. Penfield and Jasper, 1954. Ramey and O'Doherty, 1960. Implication: human mental functions may be influenced by electrical stimulation of specific areas of the brain. Summary. Autonomic and somatic functions, individual and social behavior, emotional and mental reactions may be evoked, maintained, modified, or inhibited, both in animals and in man, by electrical stimulation of specific cerebral structures. Physical control of many brain functions is a demonstrated fact, but the possibilities and limits of this control are still little known.
This was said in 1969. You heard the facts of the manipulations. In 1969, some of the facts were from 1954, 52, 68, understanding that we can alter, modify some function. If we stimulate that part of the brain, this can be the reaction. We can stimulate emotion, sexual behaviors, or sexual experiences. And you hear that, and you hear what that implies. This is in the 50s that you just heard a lot of the stuff. 50s and the 60s, not even the 70s. And of course you heard at the end, well, we know we can manipulate, but at this point, we don't know what's the limits or how far we can go. That's what he said in 1969. With the limited technology that was available, at least to us, in comparison to today. Today, what they do to me is disgusting. The basic things you just heard here, I guess, regarding basic as in how long ago they were able to create this kind of stimulations, emotions, with the basic technology they had at the time, is things sometimes they do to me. They love to play with the libido, make you have sexual stimulation. But they have added there's an additional thing they do. Make you have sexual stimulation that are degrading, meaning the sexual stimulation usually toward children. So you see a child, they force you to get sexual stimulation. It just comes in, boom, it's intense. Then there's people around you that start acting a certain way. And they look at their phone, like, oh, I just saw that. And they run away, and they have some kind of theatric acting. And you clearly now understand why they would do that. They want you to think that they just caught you have an experience that was just an observed, natural, organic experience. And they saw it on their phone. That means you are not being manipulated. You understand their job there was to gaslight you, to think that you're being manipulated. And they have no shame. And they have clowns all around you who act certain ways. They try to break you down when everybody knows that we are manipulating the brain to have these experiences. Right now, they're falsifying a memory and creating something else. But you heard what they were able to do in the 50s, in the 60s. So you can only imagine what they can do today. They are manipulating me in these degrading ways, and they construct this trash that are supposed to act certain ways. Gaslighting. And they become fanatical in the gaslighting too. Because yesterday, I guess I was listening to that. These perps are so disgusting. Using the same psyop of like wokeism, like, you know, like the movement of like Black Lives Matter or some. With this like radical, somebody yell, "We're not gonna give up," meaning we're not gonna give up the psyop. Because it's so destructive to know that this is what they were able to do in the 50s. So imagine what they can do today. So my brain has been destroyed. They've been being more aggressive because they're trying to negate that. They try to counter that. And they're like, "We're not going to give up the proof that we're not manipulating." But acting in this like radical, like we're just like, it's like a movement, like not even a movement, it's like for the freedom of this. Like they're doing it for a good cause. Like they're marching or they're like in some kind of rally. It was so disgusting. It's like these people are just saying they're not going to give up creating the psyop and act this way. They're so foul. And they use these psyops, disgusting. It's like, this is why this country never goes to. And they use, for me, a lot of childlike individuals, very mature. Or those ones go, they know their position. It's like, I don't have no self-respect. I'm going to be a clown. I don't care how obvious that even a book. That let me read the back of the book really quickly. This is 1969. Physical control of the mind by direct manipulation of the brain is a novel event in human history. In this volume, Dr. Jose M.R. Delgado describes his pioneering work in implanting electrodes in the brains of cats, monkeys, and men. Through electrical stimulation of specific cerebral structures, Delgado demonstrates how movement can be induced by radio command, hostility may appear or disappear, social hierarchy can be modified, sexual behavior may be changed, and memory, emotions, and thinking process may be influenced by remote control. The mind is no longer unreachable and may be a subject of experimental investigation. According to Delgado, we need to reorient the aim of civilization to restore a balance between its physical and psychological evolution. Our present mechanized society is dangerously self-perpetuating and should be psycho-civilized. In order to develop wiser minds, to intelligently control our awesome technological advances. Dr. Delgado believes mankind's primary objective should be not to development of machine, but of man himself. He writes lucidly about his work, putting into the context of what is known about the mind and the brain, and exploring long-range ethical and social implications of his discoveries. Despite the ongoing controversy over his work, the result is an exceedingly important and provocative book. (1969). Let's talk about these technology advances. 1969. Just imagine today. Just imagine what the capabilities are today. The level of manipulation and influencing of your mind they can do. On top of that, they have this technology and they have this clown they contract. That will really think that after all of this, I'm going to think that I'm not being manipulated. Let me give you a snippet of how, like, today this can be looked at. By the way, while he was doing that, something even more sophisticated than that, because you heard him talk about electromagnetic radiation. DARPA in the 50s, in the 60s, were working on electromagnetic radiation and try to use that to influence the brain instead of implanting devices in the brain, no brain implantation, just using this radiation from electromagnetic to influence the brain, to stimulate the brain. That's why he was saying, I wish I could have used that, because at this point, that means we don't. During the same time he was working on that, which got some good information, DARPA was working on this.
How machines can affect and possibly control the brain. In 1965, DARPA launched Project Pandora, which studied the possibility of using microwave radiation to control human behavior. The project reportedly ended